All right. Welcome back, everybody. Woo! Listen, the Tush Push, the brotherly shove, the quarterback sneak, whatever you want to call it in Philadelphia, it lives on. It has life again, at least for another year. The NFL owners met in Minnesota recently. They couldn't get the bill passed for a banning of this play. 22 of 24 votes were met, but you need all 24 in order to sustain a rule change. And, I'm shocked by the result. I thought we would come into this offseason, come into this year with no brotherly shove in the arsenal. But I think in the end, what was ultimately a massive swaying of opinion was one of Jason Kelce. Jason Kelce went to went to the owners meeting in Minnesota as a visitor, and he explained the nuances of the play, talked about different angles, all that jazz. And I think his opinion on the play and what he said about it, because he mentioned that it wasn't one of the things that led him to retirement. It was one of the more, it was one of the easier plays to execute, essentially. And when he broke it down on film, I think it swayed a lot of the owners, at least 3-4 owners maybe, into suggesting like, hey, you know what? We can let this ride out for a little bit longer. This also might be a little bit of a play by Jason Kelce to kind of get back in favor of some other Eagle fans out there who have a little bit of a strife with him for whatever reason. I am not one of those fans. Jason Kelce is one of the greatest centers of all time, one of the greatest Eagles of all time, one of the sole reasons we have a championship banner in our facility. So he went to this meeting because he was, it's funny. He was contemplating whether or not he should go to this meeting on an episode of New Heights with his brother. And ultimately he decided to go. And I think partly because he knew if he ended up being enough to sway votes, he could look back and say, hey, Philadelphia, you're welcome. My last, act as an Eagle for you is to not get this play banned. And objectively, we have to say thank you to Jason Kelce because his contribution to the owners meeting was enough, I believe, to get a couple of owners in our favor to not have this vote passed. Whether you believe that or not, whole different discussion. And I have my other thoughts and reasons why they elected not to get this play banned as well. And, now that this play isn't banned, it changes the complexion of what this team potentially could do, especially in goal line situations. And we're going to talk about that. And some of the comments Chris Sims made talking about Jalen Hurts once again, off-season talk. Chris Sims had something to say about Jalen Hurts. And I think Eagle fans, while they're tuning him out, I think what he said isn't necessarily out of pocket, but, we're going to break it down in just a moment. But before we do that, let's get into the show. This is the Riding the Bench Eagles podcast. I'm your host, Asif Badi, and I am a Birds fan like you who talks about the Birds, only the Birds, and nothing but the Philadelphia Eagles. So please do us a favor here. Help us grow this channel organically and be part of the discussion by shooting this video a thumbs up, commenting your thoughts in the comment section below, and subscribing to the channel because it helps me get out to as many Eagle fans out there as much as possible on the World Wide Web. Also, check us out on audio platforms such as Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and leave a 5-star review because in the end, it doesn't cost you a damn thing, and free stuff is good stuff. We thank you for your support on the opposite side of the camera and on the opposite side of the radio frequency airwaves. Okay, So, Tush Push being banned, let's talk about it. There's an article out there on ESPN that talked about some of the momentum that happened. Now, again, I know I'm a little late to the party. This happened on the 21st of May, but nonetheless, listen, takes 24 votes to pass. We talked about this already. Jason Kelce came in, walked into the meeting room with Jeffrey Lurie, and, made a compelling case to the point where even the Dallas Cowboys executive owner, Stephen Jones said, I think the biggest point I took away from it is he is a player. It doesn't feel like he's in any more of a precarious position to be injured than any other play from scrimmage. So that was the biggest takeaway I took from him. It was intriguing to see their techniques and him describe what they're trying to get accomplished, the angles. Now, does this mean that there's going to be an answer to stop this play? No, not particularly, but that's another episode for maybe another time or maybe another thought later on. Art Rooney for the Pittsburgh Steelers says, I don't think it's the end of the world that it's not banned. I was for the ban, but even if we pass the ban, we're still going to have quarterback sneaks in the game, which is what we've said as Eagle fans all along. I think it was made out more than what it was. Really, it wasn't as big of a deal as we made out of it. I totally agree. Sean McVay had his thoughts saying a bunch of teams support it. The committee supports it. We talked about it again. It usually is, but doesn't guarantee it. Let's get back to playing football. I agree. A lot of this, I tend to agree with some of the NFL owners and some of the coaches here. Get back to just playing football. It is as ultimate of a football play as you can possibly have in the National Football League. You have a group of linemen who are trying to move another group of linemen against their own will. Whose will is stronger? And that's kind of the whole point of the Tush Push. And even then, Chris Sims talked about it when he was commenting on the play before he commented on Jalen Hurts' status as an NFL quarterback. He talked about how the pushing of the tush, is there really an instance where Jalen Hurts is met at the line of scrimmage and because of the push, he converts the fourth down or he gets that touchdown because, he couldn't get more leverage? The majority of the time, the brotherly shove, the tush push, the quarterback sneak that they run in Philadelphia usually gets converted just on the initial push of the offensive lineman. Very rarely do you see Saquon or A.J. Brown from behind or Dallas Goedert from behind pushing Jalen Hurts forward to get the conversion. And, I get it. It's too automatic of a play. It's not necessarily the most aesthetically pleasing play. And you have to keep in mind what the casual fan looks at when watching TV. And listen, it leads me to my next point here. The primetime games that Philadelphia is going to be a part of this season, about 10 or 11 of them of the 18-week regular season, whether it's on Fox Game of the Week, whether it's Thursday night, Monday night, or Sunday night, you're going to see this play a lot. So one of two things is going to happen. One of a few things could happen. Either you're going to see teams find ways to stop it. Possible. You're going to see Philadelphia just convert it 95% of the time that they normally do. Again, more likely than not. Or more teams begin to implement this play in their arsenal in short yardage situations. Because say what you want about this play, it's a massive advantage if you're able to convert this even at a 70% clip. If you're in a position as a football team to operate at 1st and 9, excuse me, I got my allergies. The allergies is really bugging me. If you have the ability to operate in 1st and 9 as opposed to 1st and 10, in a league where margins are so small that dictate victory and losses, that's a massive advantage for any team in the NFL, especially when you're as talented as Philadelphia. People attribute a lot of their success to this play, saying if this play was taken out of their arsenal, they probably don't get to 2 of the last 3 Super Bowls or win one of them. I disagree with that statement, but nonetheless, people contribute this play to their success. And so we came off the Super Bowl. You get all these primetime games. You're going to see this play run so often. Either people are going to love it, people are going to hate it, teams are going to stop it, teams will replicate it. And if any team that they like out there has any modicum of success with running this play, such as the Packers, the Bills, the Ravens, teams like that, because I talked about this with a buddy of mine, Justin, who does the Colts side of the Riding the Bench podcast. Check him out. He's actually, he's a brilliant talent. Truly is. We were talking about it, and he was saying, like, listen, if any team ran this play with the success that Philadelphia did, everybody would want to ban it as well. This is probably the only disagreement I have with him on this play. We agree that it's automatic. We agree it's not necessarily pleasing. To a degree, for the opponents, it can be very annoying. I get it. But part of my contention is, hey, part of the reason people don't like this play is because Philadelphia in particular runs it really well. If it were another team like the Bills who ran it really well, if it were another team like the Ravens who ran it really well, another team that has more likability than Philadelphia, I guarantee you nobody would want the play banned. If Detroit ran it really well, I don't think people would want this play banned. Part of the problem for other people is that this play is ran by the Eagles, and it has the massive success that it does. And when you have Philadelphia Eagle fans, and I say this with affection because I am one of them, who are as arrogant, as brash, as braggadocious, as loudmouth as they can be, but also as knowledgeable, it really is. It just leaves a really bad taste in opponents' mouths when you got this play behind the backing of this fan base. And listen, we're not apologetic about it. Let's not get it twisted. We're going to be excited about this play because it's pure football, right? But to another fan base, it's saying, for goodness sake, these are the guys that have this play. This fan base has this play to support. Of all the fan bases to have this play, you chose this one, the football gods. You chose the Eagle fans. I get it. But like I said, the NFL has an opportunity here, putting this team in prime time to either make this play super likable, super unpopular still, find more opportunities to stop this play because you have more opportunities to watch film every single week in primetime games, deep analysis on every play, getting different opinions, all that jazz. And listen, you can say what you want about primetime games. Having the whole nation watch solely one game puts more eyeballs to the screen, brings more popularity to the game, and you know what? You're going to find more people try to find ways to slow this play down, to get the wedge of this play out of the equation so that their teams could go ahead and stop this play. It's a massive advantage, objectively. But like I said, you got the opportunity to stop it on all these primetime games. Let's see what the league does. And lastly, before we call it a day here on this episode of the Riding the Bench Eagles podcast, let's talk about Chris Sims and his comments in regards to Jalen Hurts. He was on the Colin Cowherd show, and he talked about the tiers of quarterbacks in the league, and he talked about putting CJ Stroud ahead of Jalen Hurts. And his comment is, for a massive part of the year, everybody was questioning the passing game of the Philadelphia Eagles, including the wide receivers on the very team. And all that gets washed away just because he won the Super Bowl and Super Bowl MVP. And, I get his point in that you have 20 to 25 weeks of football. 18 of them, or 10 of them, the passing game wasn't necessarily impressive. How are we going to call this guy an elite quarterback? Here's where you lose me. You can't put CJ Stroud ahead of Jalen Hurts. You can't dismiss the fact that the man in back-to-back conference title games and Super Bowl title games threw the ball well and played extremely well. In the biggest games of the year, the games that you decide to pay quarterbacks for, you being a general term, that you say, hey, this is where you make your money. We're paying you to take us to the promised land and win us the Lombardi trophy. In those instances, Jalen Hurts has played as well as anybody in the National Football League. He's played better than, arguably played better than Mahomes in the Super Bowl back-to-back years that he's gotten there. He's arguably been as good as any playoff performer quarterback you could name in the National Football League since he's entered the league. The man knows how to win. The man throws the ball efficiently. And the only reason that this passing game is not as proficient as maybe other ones in the league is due to attempts, in my opinion. I can guarantee you, if you look at the attempts that Philadelphia had this season, it's probably ranked one of the lower ones in the National Football League. Because you have such a dominant running game and you have the Great Wall of Philly in front of you, why on earth would I want to throw the ball when I'm getting 6 yards, 5 yards, 6 yards, 7 yards a clip running the ball? Why on earth would I do that? And I know everybody wants it to look like Detroit and how beautiful their offense is, but you know what? They were putting up a lot of big numbers on bad teams. And look what it got them in the playoffs. Now, I get it, they were injured. And injuries play a role. But you know what? That's what every team faces. Every team faces the game of attrition. Every team faces, going up against talented defenses and all that jazz, right? My point being is, for Chris Sims to say, I have Jalen Hurts ranked 8 or 10 out of all the quarterbacks in the National Football League, and having CJ Stroud ahead of him, having Matt Stafford ahead of him, having Justin Herbert ahead of him, because a majority of the weeks, the passing game for Philadelphia was poor, I think is a little short-sighted. I'm not going to kill the man for it, just like a lot of Eagle fans tend to kill anytime Chris Simmons has a comment on Jalen Hurts, they tend to roll their eyes, which, again, I get it. Jalen Hurts has an opportunity here, is my point overall. And we talked about this in the last episode. Does he have anything to prove? Does he have anything else to prove to the national media? Apparently, yes. Can he prove that he could throw the ball consistently at a high level throughout the regular season and be one of the reasons that you win? Again, he already proved the latter part, but you need numbers to back up your claim. And again, do I want him throwing for 4,000 yards and 30 touchdowns? Sure, that'd be nice. But you know what? Ultimately, I'll take the season that we just had, where we ran for 2,500 yards, played good defense, and when the quarterback needed to make plays, made the plays to win the Super Bowl and Super Bowl MVP. I'll take that any day. And if he's not ranked a top 5 quarterback because of that, well, then you know what? You could take your rankings and shove them up your ass, because then what are we playing for? Right? The whole point of it is to win the Super Bowl. That's the point. And again, Jalen Hurts not putting up elite passing numbers is a whole different discussion in regards to legacy for players, in regards to getting other people paid. That's a different conversation, something that we probably will entertain a little bit down the road. But for now, the Tush Push getting life once again helps this football team, helps them become that much more elite in short yardage situations. It helps this quarterback establish himself as a game-changing player in the National Football League, and it potentially could move him up in the tiers of quarterback And by the end of this season, it's very, very possible, outside of Eagle fans and some members of the national media, Jalen Hurts could establish himself as a top 5 quarterback with excellent play this year. It's just a matter of waiting to see it all happen.
Hey! Thank you so much for watching the Riding the Bench Eagles podcast. If you want to continue to support the channel, please hit the like and subscribe button down below. Also, check us out on Instagram and TikTok at Riding the Bench Eagles Pod. We're also on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, you name it, we're on there. Thank you so much for listening, and please join us next time here at the Riding the Bench Eagles podcast.